Good afternoon. I am Joni Sussman, President of Books for Africa. I'd like to welcome you all to our Spring 2021 virtual Kilimanjaro Society meeting. I'm pleased that you've joined us to hear about recent successes and developments in Books for Africa's operations. Our Kilimanjaro Society members represent our top donors at Books for Africa. Thank you so much for your very generous support. I'm also pleased that we're joined by a number of our other key supporters, including Books for Africa Ambassador Circle members who support us in their communities, members of our board of directors, and Books for Africa staff. Welcome to all of you, and please consider becoming a member of the Kilimanjaro Society if you are not already. We have a special treat today. It is my honor to introduce you to our keynote speaker, Congresswoman Betty Mccullum. Betty's been a longtime supporter of Books for Africa in many different ways, and will speak today on the topic of the role of international development NGOs in enhancing US security through building goodwill. Representative Betty Mccullum represents Minnesota's 4th District in the United States House of Representatives. We are honored that Books for Africa is located in the Congresswoman's district. Throughout her career in public service, Representative Mccullum has been a champion for excellence in education and advancing international development goals, including a strong national defense. As chair of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Defense, she is responsible for writing an annual defense funding bill of nearly $700 billion. Under her leadership, the committee is prioritizing a number of investments, including prevention of conflicts. Prior to Congress, Representative Mccullum served in the Minnesota House of Representatives from 1993 to 2000. She is a graduate of the College of St. Catherine and the mother of 2 adult children. A Minnesota native, she grew up in South St. Paul, raised her family in North St. Paul, and lives in St. Paul. Representative Mccullum, thank you for joining us today.
Out here to get the microphone going. Everything looking good for everybody. That's great. Well, first off, greetings, and it's a pleasure to join you today, the Kilimanjaro Society luncheon that you're going to be having, and it's a perfect day to be with good friends while it's raining outside, right? I just wanted to, start out by telling you why I'm here. It's because of Tom and Pat reaching out to me and making me totally fall in love with Books for Africa. Because I know the profound impact that you make when I'm in Africa and I visit a library, or I visit a school, or I visit someone who has had access to books provided by you folks. You make a difference to the lives and the students of young people all across Africa. Now, my first event with Books for Africa was 2002, 2003. So it's been a while since we've all been together working. And I just have to give another shout out to Tom Worth. He's been a dear friend. He's an enthusiastic champion. I know whenever I see him, it's going to be high and launch right into what the latest thing Books for Africa is doing. And he never misses an opportunity to send more books. And that's where Pat comes in. Because Pat is kind of the logistics person, right? Or if you want to look at it as a stage production, we've got the producer and we've got the director. And I've been given a lot of direction by Pat sometimes about how we've got some books we have to move. So Tom and Pat, and for the whole board of Books for Africa, and all the supporters and donors who are here today, you've reached a remarkable milestone. I've been told that it's now more than 50 million books have been shipped. That's a lot of books. My mother was a librarian. She would say, good job, good job. So I know that there's more cities and schools and libraries and universities all across Africa where your books are, and they're ready for more. And there are children right now well, I won't say right now, they should be kind of sleeping a little bit. We've got a time difference, but there will be children that either went to bed with a book or waking up with one this morning. And that's real power for children, the power of literacy, the power of reading, the power of learning about the world. So here again, thank you, each and every one of you. You make me proud as a Minnesotan and as a member of Congress that I get to stand up and shout out all the great achievements of Books for Africa. And it is a well-run organization too. So you get kudos for that from State Department and Defense. When I was talking to my chief of staff about remarks today, we started reflecting on when I came to Congress in 2001. Back in the day, you didn't need a passport to go to Canada. So I didn't have a passport. And I was really focused on domestic issues and taking what I had worked on in the State House and on the City Council and making sure that the federal government lived up to its obligations and provided more hope and opportunity for community members. So I was going to be focusing on education and the environment and healthcare. And I've been able to do that important work, but I also discovered the world, and Africa in particular has become of great importance to me. Over the years, I've traveled the continent dozens of times. I have visited 17 countries over the past 20 years, whether it's been Chad, Gabon, Tanzania, Malawi, or Ethiopia. I have to tell you, I was always welcomed warmly. And over the years, I've worked on global health issues, conflict resolution, agriculture, and economic development, and have met so many government officials and community leaders in Africa that want to do this work together with the United States. But the common denominator, I will say as a parent and as a legislator trying to promote democracy, is access to education. And that's why the mission of Books for Africa is just so important. You know, I don't have to tell you that resources are scarce. And where resources are scarce, books become a luxury. And they shouldn't be a luxury for children, but they are. The books that you provide are a luxury item. And they need to be provided because every child needs a little bit of luxury in their life. While in Congress, I served on the International Relations Committee, where we passed the historic HIV/AIDS relief program known as PEPFAR. I traveled to Darfur to draw attention to the genocide. And I actually was with a UN convoy and we went into Sudan. We were supposed to stay on the Chad side, but there had just been a bombing and the UN officials wanted to check it out. So we went and we met with some people who had just escaped with their lives. I visited clinics. I have watched babies be born, new Tanzanians. I have had the opportunity to visit farms and schools in dozens of different countries. My last trip to Africa, in fact, my last trip anywhere outside of St. Paul and Washington, D.C., was in November of 2019 to Malawi. And I went there to look at some international work that the U.S. Forestry Service program was doing. And they were working on water quality and they were working on deforestation issues, and as well as poaching. So I had the opportunity to visit with some village projects there, everything from artisans to people working on poaching to people working on education. And once again, very warmly received. And the US was a valued partner. And they were so excited to work with us because we work respectfully when we're there, that other nations, and the example is very clear, China and Russia now when they're in Africa, it's an extraction. It's not an interaction. So things have changed for me with this year. I became the House of the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, and I had the responsibility, as was pointed out, thank you for the kind introduction, of $700 billion of defense spending. But that includes U.S. AFRICOM Command and the U.S. military-to-military engagement with African countries. And I'm very proud of some of the work that our military does. When I was in Chad during the Darfur conflict, I watched some of our military men interact with the Chad military, and they were taking out pictures of their daughters, our U.S. servicemen, and talking about how their daughters go to school and their daughters play sports and their daughters were going to be leaders in their community. And these men from Chad were kind of like, you're talking, well, don't you have any boys? Oh yeah, I've got sons too, but let me tell you about my daughters. So that's an example of some of the military to military things that are going on. The other issues that they're working on, well, it's serious threats. I mean, we've all seen what's been happening with the ISIS affiliate in Mozambique. It breaks your heart and it terrorizes you at the same time when you see what is happening. In Nigeria, Somalia, and now, tragically, what's going on in Ethiopia. So the training and the mission support that we need to do with our military is one that says you need to confront extremism. You need to strengthen your military so that it's professional, so that it has respect for civilian leadership. And we teach also to respect and value human life. So those are lessons we try to import when we do these exchanges. So the role of the United States engaging with African countries is critical, and it's more important than any other time, I think, in the history of our nation. The COVID-19 pandemic, the economic crisis, it's difficult in every country, but you can imagine what African countries are going through. It's truly a healthcare, humanitarian, and development disaster all rolled up into one. Families, communities, and entire nations have very limited resilience to any kind of a crisis, let alone this crisis. They are literally being battered by the pandemic and the ever deepening poverty that we have been working on, the United States with the World Bank and other nations. We're watching some of those successes disappear. The hardest hit is always the children. Schools are closed. Access to learning has basically vanished. Families in many places are in survival mode, and that means girls are becoming more vulnerable. UNICEF, who we've been working with on reducing and eliminating child marriage, has told us that forced marriages are on the rise for young women. Most African countries have not seen one vaccine, and they probably aren't going to receive any COVID vaccines for a significant period of time. This has the potential of even deepening this already ongoing catastrophic situation in Africa. And add to that, the past 4 years, we know the leadership in the United States, the traditional leadership that we've had of making investments in diplomacy, development, and defense, the three-legged stool of US foreign policy. Well, we know that our national security, because of the Trump administration's disregard and disrespect for African nations, has really limited our ability to address not only this pandemic, but some of the other crises Africa has been facing. Can you imagine, and I'm not going to repeat the words of our former president, what he said about the African nations. And when I was in Africa, they were welcome to see an ambassador that warmly supported them. And you do that every time a book goes in somebody's hands. So thank you for you being there during the past 4 years. So now it's time to re-engage, right? I'm ready to do it. And it's time to reinvest in diplomacy. And it's time to reinvest in development that will sustain partnerships and elevates the quality of life for people, whether they're in the city, in a rural area, or any place in between. And that means working together to invest in, healthcare, food security, and promoting gender equality and getting education. And I also want to include sustainable energy development. That was one of the reasons why I was with the international forestry folks, is making sure that we don't see climate change even having more severe consequences in Africa. And I believe the Biden administration is ready to engage, and I think they're going to champion a partnership across Africa. The future of every African nation is the power of its own people, and that gets back to education, that gets back to books, that gets back to what you're doing. So that's why I'm working with Books for Africa, and we're working with Pat, and we're using the U.S. Department of Defense's Office of Humanitarian Assistance, and we're getting books to the continent. And I understand from the number of containers we recently sent, will be many more coming in the future months. So I look forward to this year, not only exploring more ways the Department of Defense can work, but I look to working with USAID also to be involved in getting more educational materials shipped to Africa. And that's the kind of soft power that will play an important role in restoring America's credibility. African civil society will grow stronger, and we will help them out of this pandemic. So Books for Africa, once again, you're one of the best possible faces of soft power. You're very powerful, know that. on supporting Africa's future, because the power of knowledge, the power of books is transformational, it's life-changing, and it's inspiring. So we know the COVID crisis isn't over here. We know that we have a lot of things that we have to address here at our own nation. We have food insecurity here, we have healthcare disparities, and we have the systematic challenges of addressing racial inequality, along with climate change and what we can do with here. And if it wasn't enough, on January 6th, we witnessed our own domestic terrorism attack. So we have work to do here at home, but we also, as a nation, must re-engage with the world in investing in vital global relationships, restoring America's responsible leadership to promote values, to promote peace, to promote opportunity, and the development of human potential. And in doing that, we will also secure our own national security. So I want to engage with the world, and I want to continue engaging in African nations, whether it's Tunisia, let's say Tanzania or Togo, where I haven't been yet. I want to do that, and I want to do that boasting about the great work that you do with Books for Africa. So I want to extend my deepest, warmest regards and appreciation to the board members, the supporters, and the donors, because I get to be in these African countries, and I get to take the credit for all the hard work you do to make sure that there's books in the hands of children and teachers. So thank you so very much.
Thank you, Representative. We appreciate your time. I don't know if you have time for questions or.
I might have time for one or two. I do have another meeting I have to jump on.
If anyone has a question, if you can just put it into the chat, if you're familiar with that. And Chelsea, can you monitor that, please?
Yeah,
or I guess, yeah, you can go ahead and do that. In the meantime, thank you, Representative McCullum. You have been wonderful for Books for Africa. You represent us. You get frequently to Africa, which we really appreciate. And we very, very much appreciate your support really over all these many, many years. So thank you so much. Chelsea, do we have questions there?
we don't have questions in the chat yet. If anyone has a question, at the bottom of your screen, you have an option in the middle towards that says chat, and it'll open up a box where you can type your question.
In the meantime, I think Pat has a question.
Yeah,
That
thank
probably
you.
is more work for me. Right, Tom?
Thank you, Betty, for all of your great work. You mentioned Tunisia in your remarks, and actually just this morning, the ambassador from Tunisia called our office. We're planning on sending a container of medical books and a human rights law library funded by Thomson Reuters, and also a large quantity of Arabic children's books to Tunisia. I know you used to be a member of, I believe it was the Tunisia caucus. So just wanted to a shout out for Tunisia. And are you still involved with that country? We will definitely keep you appraised of our project in Tunisia as well.
Well, I have probably in the Department of Defense, I'll be engaging in that a little more. You know, the spring democracy birth in Africa and in the Middle East really happened in Tunisia. And the Tunisian military gave the public the space to do what it needed to do. And a lot of that credit goes to the Tunisian military being on the phone with their counterparts and people that they had been mentored by in the US military, saying, your job is not to attack, your job is calling Maria Law. Okay, well, if there isn't anything else, just thank you so much. And, have a successful meeting. And I'm going to give my pitch because we're not out of the pandemic yet. I'm fully immunized. I still wear a mask. I still wash my hands. It's allergy season, so I'm trying very hard not to touch my face. And I don't social distance, I physical distance. So we'll get through this pandemic together and we'll get on the other side of it. And in the meantime, as I'm working to improve things here at home, know that I am working with members in Congress to make sure we don't forget our brothers and sisters in the African continent and other places around the world. All the best.
Thank you, Representative McCullum. Thank you very much. And now I will turn the program over to Patrick for the rest of the program.
Thank you so much, Joni, and welcome to all of the participants on this call. We have about 50 participants here, and so you're all on for a reason. You're one of you got invited to this because you are a key supporter of Books for Africa. You're a member of our Kilimanjaro Society, which is those who donate $1,000 or more, or you're a member of our board of directors or our ambassadors circle, or you're one of our key strategic partners in Africa. So I would just like to say thank you, everyone, for all that you've done on behalf of Books for Africa. And as I always say, tongue in cheek, thank you for all that you're going to be doing for Books for Africa, because you are always our key supporters, and you always have delivered for our ongoing needs. And that's how we got to send over 50 million books to Africa, is by over 33 years. It's by working with all of you, just book by book, container by container. So I'm going to just provide a very brief update about Books for Africa. And then I think if you have questions for me or questions for anyone, please just type them in the chat function, and our illustrious founder, Tom Worth, will be doing a monitored question and answer period. So if you have a question, just type it in the chat function. If you want to direct it to a particular person, you can. And I think we're going to save questions till the end. So briefly, what have we been up to here at Books for Africa? We, as Congresswoman McCullum mentioned, COVID has, provided difficulties in Africa and everywhere. I think, it has slowed us down at Books for Africa as well, but it hasn't stopped us. It has slowed us down. It has reduced our supply of books. It has reduced our number of volunteers. It's reduced our funding, led to substantial supply chain disruptions in terms of there's actually a shortage of sea containers. There's disrupted supply chains everywhere. And it's, of course, made it harder for our partners in Africa to receive and distribute books. That said, we've continued to press on through all of that. And we expect in this current fiscal year to send 2.5 million books. We've sent over 2 million books as of today in this current fiscal year. And we are laying the groundwork to send a lot more books. So while it's slowed us down, it hasn't stopped us, and we will continue to ship books to our partners through this entire process. We've actually sent to 18 countries in this current fiscal year, and we'll probably ship to 23 countries by July 1 when our fiscal year ends. Some of our new initiatives that you might be interested in knowing about: we have a new warehouse in Atlanta that we've just taken possession of in January, and we're going to be having a June open house for that event. We're hoping to bring in the African Union ambassador from Washington, D.C. to be our keynote speaker. So I've been in touch with their office, and if you're in that Atlanta area or you would like to be, I think it's going to be the third Saturday in June. Information coming out soon, and it'll be a nice opportunity to see our new warehouse in Marietta, Georgia. And as always, the Books for Africa Warehouse Band will be performing. I have it on good authority from our warehouse manager, Brad Manson. So we're excited about that and the capacity that warehouse gives us. We continue to refine our ability to process books there. A new, more and more sophisticated inventory management systems come on board, which makes it easier and cheaper and more efficient to send the right kind of books to our recipients in Africa. It's not just about sending whatever books are sitting around. It's about sending the right books to the right people, high quality books. And so the warehouse, we're very excited about that. Our annual luncheon will be coming up this summer, thanks to Thomson Reuters for again, being our lead sponsor on that, along with a number of other sponsors. We appreciate that. We are working on bringing in the South African ambassador for that event, and we've been in touch with her office, and hopefully that will come to fruition. That will be a virtual event for those of you who are not in Minnesota. There will be a live event in Minnesota, a luncheon, but then there will also be a virtual component so others can participate as well. So stay tuned on that. More information to come. You may have heard of the Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, the famous book, and the Netflix movie that the William Kamwamba, who is from Malawi, is the one who wrote that book. He is the boy who harnessed the wind. We're working on a project in Malawi with him and his project. So very excited about that. Nothing, really demonstrates the power of a book as much as the boy who harnessed the wind, because he read books about how to create windmills to generate electricity and did it because he didn't have access to school. That's what books and libraries are about, providing opportunity to people. So we're excited about that project. If you want to travel to Africa with us, mark your calendars for January. We are tentatively seeing if we can do that. There's COVID, seeing how COVID what it will allow us to do and not do. So we are consulting with our partners, but the tentative plan is for Tom Warth to lead a walk across the Gambia in celebration of our Million Books to Gambia project, which will be wrapped up. And then I'm sure those who wish to travel to other locations in Africa, West Africa, or anywhere in Africa, you may wish to do that on your own. So stay tuned for that. West Africa and the Gambia will be the hub. That's our tentative plan for right now. As Betty McCullum alluded to, we are hoping to ramp up a couple of our key programs in Washington, D.C. The Humanitarian Assistance Program provides donated freight. And so we look forward to using that program more effectively. The USAID Ocean Freight Reimbursement Program, another donated freight program that we're looking to enhance in working with Congresswoman McCullum's office. And so those are key. Other key partnerships, we just did have UPS. They'll be in our warehouse every Friday in April, and they will be sending 1 or 2 donated containers, donating the freight to send those containers to Africa. Recent volunteers in our warehouse have included Delta and a lot of other organizations you've heard of. I think the Atlanta Falcons were there, and a lot of the blue chip companies, Home Depot and many companies you've heard of based in Atlanta volunteer in our warehouse. So we're happy about that. I think that will wrap up my remarks here, and I'm going to take it from there. Again, if there's any questions about any of this or suggestions, and not only questions, but thoughts for what we could be doing better to help our recipients in Africa, please do so. So at this point, I'm going to function. So maybe, if people want to ask them an audio version, if there aren't any in the chat functions, we could maybe find a way to do that. Maybe people could unmute themselves and ask a question if there aren't any in the chat function. I'll turn it over to Tom Warth, and Tom, as our founder, can comment and stand for any questions and hand them over to folks.
Thank you, Pat. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I would note there's 2 people at least 2 in Africa. Maybe there's more calling us from Africa. Anyway, welcome all of you. I would remind all of us that it is a time of celebration because we have a new lady African leader. And I think it's not too political to say she's replaced someone who was not very helpful in Tanzania. So we're encouraged, and we want to get more books to Africa so we can educate more girls and have more women leaders in Africa. Of course, we need them here too. But anyway, let's see, there is a question up here that I saw from Val Stokes. I'd like to ask a question about, from Patrick and the group, what efforts are being made to ensure that we are sending relevant curriculum that is country specific, apart from volume or numbers of book ships? I think we need to put in the effort to be sure we're shipping books that are relevant. A shout out to Val, who's been a long time supporter, and thank you for attending. So Pat, maybe you can answer that question.
Thank you, Val. That's a great question, and it's one that we discuss a lot at Books for Africa. I think at Books for Africa, we need to accept our limitations and also acknowledge our capabilities. So we do have the capacity to sort books aggressively. And so if books are too old or too damaged or not useful, even if they're brand new but not useful, we will recycle them. And so we recycle probably 30% of the books that come in the door because they're not useful. And you know, again, it's about making sure that the high quality books go where they're wanted. I think as per the presentation that was just done from South Africa shows, the Girls Empowerment Collection is yet another way to get the right books into the hands of people who are interested in them and find them to be useful. This issue of curriculum is one that comes up a lot. And the reality is, with some 54 countries, 55 in Africa, it's very, you know, we can't meet the curriculum of every country. So for that, we depend on our partners to use the books effectively. And that's a large challenge, but they, being in their respective countries, are better equipped than we are to do it. At some point in the future, we might be able to provide more books geared to curriculum, but for now, that's sort of the situation. And I'll hand it over if anyone else, perhaps some of our African partners can comment better than me, those who, some of our board members from Africa, Mike Essie, and I think we got this question asked yesterday at the warehouse. So Mike, maybe you want to.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning, wherever we all are. Yes, this issue is ongoing, but as we can appreciate it, sorting it to curriculum and all those things are more difficult than otherwise. So there is sincere appreciation for the need, and we do try. I think generally we try to meet those needs, and as supplementary books, it does serve the purpose. If you're talking about books that in math is math, algebra is algebra, physics is physics. So on the borderlines of social science and that, you may have books that do not readily meet curriculum, but they are still supportive of curriculum. So I think what we do meets the need. When we have very specific needs, then it calls for more or a more granular approach, and that's the present day situation that we will continue to work on it and see where we go from here.
Thank you, Mike. There is an interesting question here. You know, people want to give us books, and sometimes I think they throw away books we could use, and vice versa. Now there's a question here, how are books recycled? So maybe Brad or James from the Atlanta warehouse could explain that process. If you unmute yourself.
The recycling process, yeah, there are books that are damaged or are inappropriate. We have guidelines, and James is really, really large and in charge of taking care of that process, making sure that not too many duplicate books go into any pallet. He makes sure that the books that do go are quality books that are going to last a long time. We don't want to send books that are chewed up or written over on or otherwise abused. And when we don't use them, we recycle them. And in the past, the recycled pulp used to make our boxes. It doesn't at this point in time, but it's still a green process where everything we recycle gets turned into pulp and turns back into cardboard.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Charles Cogan says, is this concept of a book club something that could be used as a model more broadly? And is this something you would be interested in working on? Who is interested in answering that question? Can we get anyone to it sounds a great idea and it's working in South Africa, but who can contribute an answer? Anyone?
I think one of the things that we can do is, because it has been such a success, to promote it more heavily in other countries, because now we do have a success story that we can use, to help us do that. So that it is a wonderful program, and it was inspiring to see the presentation. So maybe we can create something that we can share with other African countries, other communities, to say, here's the kind of thing that you might be able to do with a girls' empowerment collection. It's a great idea.
Right. Would our speaker be able to talk a little more? Pam would like to ask some questions. Is our speaker still? Can you unmute yourself and take some questions from Pam Papastanek?
Actually, thank you, Tom. I have too many questions. So because I would really love to start this program in Rwanda. And what I would really like to know are more about guidelines and outlines for starting the process. If it's better to start at young, middle school, or high school. So she graciously gave me her email address. So I'll get the answers and then I'll share them with everybody.
Okay, great. Now there's a few announcements here. Laura Blomberg has commented about South Africa and a partnership. So Laura, can you tell us about the Mandela Fellows? Where are they coming from this year? Each year we help host a group of African scholars or business people. I think they're not just scholars. And can you tell us about the program this year, Laura, if you're still on and can unmute?
I am still on, and thank you for that. And I wish I had more information at this point about exactly where they're coming from. We not surprisingly paused on the program last year. I don't know if I'm talking over somebody here or not. Okay. And so we're still working through the specifics of who's coming, who's able to come, and who how we're going to adapt it. So I can get back to you with the specifics, but the good news is that we are solidly on board for continuing this partnership. And also, some of you may know that this partnership took a bit of a hit during the last administration, during the Trump administration. And so we didn't host fellows for a year. It's still running, and the Biden administration is very supportive of it. But what exactly it will look like this year still remains to be seen.
Thank you.
As long as I'm unmuted, though, if I could also add, the other comment I put in the chat was that Dr. Samuel Myers at the Humphrey School and I are partnering with the University of the Western Cape and the University of Cape Town to host a Pan-African and then an African and US based conference exploring social justice and what we can learn from each other. Not what the US can teach South Africa, no, but how are we learning about racial healing and reparative practices together. We've postponed that conference until we can do it in person. We're really committed to at least making it hybrid, but I'm really excited for ways that we could all work together on parts of that.
Thank you, Laura. So there's a question from Mr. Brownstone. What are the 3 things that need to happen in 2021 to make the year successful for Books for Africa? I'll pass that to the president and the executive director. The founder is just sitting back and hoping all these good things happen.
Well, I'll say one. I know that the warehouse has informed us that they have large quantities of books in the warehouse, but we need more volunteers to effectively sort them. And so, we have funding in hand to send books. We have books, we need to sort them to fill those specific orders. So that's one thing that needs to happen. A second thing I think that needs to happen is that we have some large scale partnerships that we're working on. I know Mike Essien is working on one in Nigeria, and we're working on one with the Surameka 4 Foundation. Those are like 10 container projects that would move huge quantities of books. So those are two things I think that we would like to see, and I'll turn it over to others for other things.
Okay. If I can jump in here, I love the big picture, and I think if we are to achieve our goal of ending the African book famine, we are going to have to produce new books ourselves or enable other people to produce them. We need to print millions of books in appropriate languages and do more of that, because I think donated books, there's still going to be many, many more, because I guess during COVID people have been buying books, so there's many more, but we've got to up our game and send more books. You can print books in China, or I guess I shouldn't say China, but somewhere out there very, very reasonably, and get them to Africa in millions of quantities. And I think we have to do that kind of thing in Amharic or Swahili. I look to that, and I think if we can make progress in that area, which we're already doing, we're doing some publishing now already, and we want to do more. And so progress in that direction would be a third item. Let's see, I'm looking, see if we've got more questions here. David and Marianne Taylor, I've started a program called STAR. I take books to the public government school, and we stop and read for 15 minutes each day. Simply, the students don't know how to read, but are loving the pictures. They tell me what the story is. These are books we received from BFA. David and Marianne, where are you? You need to unmute.
Tanzania.
Okay, yeah, we talked to you earlier. Okay, well, we as I told you, we love Tanzania, and we want to help you more. So what was the question?
It wasn't a question, it was a shout out that without these books that were donated from Books for Africa, these kids, they've never held a book in their life. They don't have books in government schools. So with the donation from BFA, I have 400 students who get to touch a book and read a book 4 days a week. So I just wanted to do it as a shout out and just an encouragement that even during COVID, we are surviving.
So I just want to tell you our background with Tanzania. Emma Kasiga is Tanzanian and has been on our board and has been a supporter for many, many years, and has connected us with some of the former leaders of the country. And she's made some comments here to me about exciting times in the future. So I think we're going to have opportunities to provide more books for Tanzania, and through your enthusiasm for distributing books, I think, and putting them in the hands of students, I think that's a wonderful thing. So let's keep in touch. I'm sure Carol will keep in touch. Carol, do you have anything to add here? You've been very quiet.
I would like to praise Zoli, Marianne. We have a few other African recipients on. We have Kofi in Tanzania. Let's see. Forgive me if I'm overlooking, I'm kind of scrolling our participants, but just to illustrate that Books for Africa supplies books to experts in their field who know exactly how to put books to use. They're reaching kids who have never held a book, kids who you might see grab a book upside down. They're so excited just to hold books, implementing them right away in such creative ways. And Zoli connected with Books for Africa because of Lauren, who led our board and donors up Table Mountain 2.5 years ago. So staff and board and donors like you visiting Africa make these connections that ripple, and we don't know exactly how far those ripples go. So talk to me about going to the Gambia in January, and talk to us about the people you're connected to who will put these books to use. People like Marianne, Zoli, and Kofi accomplish for us what we couldn't possibly do, which is just for those of you donors who have traveled to Africa, but you've lost your contacts, you were in Peace Corps, you were employed in Africa, you just trust us to put books into the hands of kids. And that is exactly what our recipients do. Every single day, another box is unpacked in Africa, and more kids are holding those books. So reach out to us, tell us who needs books, and we will ship more boxes every day.
Thank you, Carol. Those of you who aren't too familiar with this Zoom thing, click the chat line along the bottom, and there's some very interesting comments from several of you, not so much questions, but telling what you're doing, and that's amazing and wonderful, and we appreciate your participation. So lastly, I just want to thank everyone for being on this. You know, there is one person on here who shall remain nameless who was we chatted before I founded Books for Africa, but some of you have been on a long time and some of you have been on a short time, and all of you make it happen. But we have to do more. We've sort of plateaued in the last few years. You know, we've plateaued at a pretty high level, but you know, the population of Africa is growing all the time, and thank goodness COVID hasn't destroyed a lot of the progress. But we have to do more, and thank you, all of you, and please tell your friends. You know, we're enthusiastic around this organization, and I know you all are. But let's get some of your friends involved. And the 3 ways you can help. You know, you can volunteer, you can give books, or you can give money. You know, all those 3 ways are helpful. So Joni or Pat, I'll close with that. But otherwise, we don't switch the whole thing off on the hour. So if you want to hang around and ask more questions or comment on the chat page, please do so. But Pat and Joni, maybe you want to close.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming today. Certainly Tom is right that we need more books. We can't sit on our laurels. However, our laurels are pretty darn good. As you know, we've delivered 50 million books to Africa, which is no small accomplishment. And that is also thanks in no small part to all of you who are on this call, our biggest, our most devoted donors. We so appreciate what you do. Several people have asked in the chat about the dates for some of our upcoming events, our luncheons, our fundraisers. We're still in the process of putting those dates together because we're waiting to see about the in-person versus virtual or hybrid. But we have all of your contact information, and we will make sure to let you know. And at least for this year, things will probably be at least hybrid. So we will have the opportunity to actually see each other's faces, even if the event takes place in St. Paul or in Atlanta or somewhere else around the world. We are looking forward to being in Africa, in the Gambia, in January. Any of you that are interested in joining us for that trip, again, we don't have details yet. Of course, it depends on COVID and all kinds of other things, but you know, we will keep you in the loop on all of those kinds of activities as well. And I want to personally thank all of you for taking an hour out of your day to devote to Books for Africa. It's great to see everybody's faces. I want to thank our participants, and we so appreciate everything that all of you do to make this organization a successful one. So thank you very much. Pat, unless you have something else to say?
Yeah, I would just second what you said very well. Thank you, everyone. I'm seeing a lot of faces of our key supporters. So thank you, everyone. And some folks are leaving and other ones are coming in. So thank you, everyone. And as Tom said, if anyone would like to stay on after we hang up, we can certainly do that, but don't feel obligated. I think the formal program ends now. thank you, everyone, and keep up the